it from happening again. What are Democrats going to do about it? Joining me now is Congressman Ted Lieu of California, who's also a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Thank you for being here, Congressman. In light of what we now know, that Russians targeted not just 26 states, but all 50 states, and the fact that the Senate leader, Mitch McConnell, refuses to take action, is there anything that Democrats can do to protect this country's next election?
Thank you, Jory, for your question. Anyone watching Robert Mueller's testimony can only conclude three things: that the Russians attacked us in a sweeping and systematic manner in 2016, that the Trump campaign embraced that attack and used information from it to their own advantage, and then the president committed multiple acts of obstruction of justice to stop the investigation into their attack. The House of Representatives has passed multiple bills to the U.S. Senate to improve election security. Mitch McConnell has not taken those up for a vote. That is very disappointing. We have to keep putting on the U.S. Senate and Mitch McConnell to take those bills up for a vote.
Right, and one of the bills that Mitch McConnell and the other body in the Senate is refusing to even put on the floor would call for any campaign, American campaign, that was getting offers of help from a foreign government to report to the FBI. He will not, Mitch McConnell will not allow that to go on the floor, nor the other bill that would have allowed paper ballots. Meanwhile, here is what Donald Trump said in June, just in June, to George Stephanopoulos on ABC about whether or not he would be willing to accept foreign help.
Your campaign this time around, if foreigners, if Russia, if China, if someone else offers you information on an opponent, should they accept it or should they call the FBI?
I think maybe you do both. I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
So given the fact that Donald Trump has said he would be open to taking help from Norway or any other country that wanted to weigh in and help him win, when you also have no deal was able to be reached between Democrats and the Republicans on both pledging not to accept foreign help, even though the Republicans claim they don't want foreign help and wouldn't accept it, but they won't pledge with Democrats to do it, and the fact that the NRCC has already been hacked. They've already had information stolen in a huge 2018 attack. So it could happen to them as well, but they won't agree with Democrats. How will our next election be free and fair? How can we be confident that the next election will not be just riddled with foreign interference from Iran, from Saudis, from anyone else?
That's a great question. There's two things going on. There is what the president says, and then there's everybody else in the executive branch. And I've gone through briefings, including classified briefings on election security. And what I can say is that we have very capable, very patriotic FBI agents, Department of Homeland Security officials, national security intelligence officials who don't want our elections to be hacked. You also have 50 secretaries of both Republican and Democrat, who don't want our elections to be hacked. So you have a lot of people working to push back against the Russians as well as other foreign powers. And so we're investing more money. People are much more aware now of the capability of our elections being hacked. So I think we're going to do the best we can in 2020. But I do trust that these patriotic Americans are going to do what they said they're going to do, which is uphold the oath to our Constitution.
Do you believe the President of the United States does not want foreign interference again? Does he not want our elections to be hacked?
I don't pretend to understand how Donald Trump thinks. What I can say is that you never know, first of all, which side Russia is going to choose. You also don't know what other countries are going to do. So if we don't have safe and secure voting systems, it delegitimizes our entire election, and that is bad for a Republican, for a Democrat, for everyone across America.
Let me play you the key moment from your questioning of Robert Mueller this week, which he later had a correction on. But here is this questioning. This is element one from my.
I believe a reasonable person looking at these facts could conclude that all three elements of the crime of obstruction of justice have been met. And I'd like to ask you, the reason, again, that you did not indict Donald Trump is because of OLC opinion stating that you cannot indict a sitting president, correct?
That is correct.
Now, he went back later and corrected. That was the one thing he went back and did a correction on, and he said that that was not the correct way to say it. He said, as we say in the report, as I said in the opening, we did not reach a determination as to whether the president committed a crime. But you, as a former prosecutor, sir, do you believe that Donald Trump could be indicted for obstruction of justice after he leaves office?
Absolutely. And right before I asked those questions, I had Robert Mueller walk through the three elements of obstruction of justice. He said yes to the first two. And then with the third element, which was intent, I simply read from his report. And his report said there was, quote, substantial, unquote, of intent. So all three elements of the crime of obstruction of justice were met. And let me just give you an analogy for basically what happened. It's like Robert Mueller saying, here's a piece of bread, I'm putting ham on it, I'm putting on top of it another slice of bread, and we go, that's a ham sandwich. And he says, well, I didn't make a determination whether or not it's a ham sandwich because I was instructed I can't call it that. It is still a ham sandwich.
That is a very good analogy. Very quickly, and this has to be a very short answer, is what we are now seeing in the House an impeachment inquiry?
So impeachment is not a binary question at this point. It is a process. So we've been investigating the president's misconduct. Robert Mueller's testimony was a watershed moment because he said yes and no to a large number of devastating facts against the president. That's giving us a predicate basis to go forward to actively consider whether or not we should file articles of impeachment. That's why we need the grand jury information, as much information as we can, and we're filing litigation to get that information.
Very quickly, I hate to press you, but is what you just described an impeachment inquiry?
I would call it an impeachment investigation. I think people can call it an impeachment inquiry. We're certainly in the process of determining whether or not we should file articles of impeachment.
All right. Congressman